He almost missed that bus. And if he had, his life would have gone on just the same, quiet, ordinary, and unseen. But fate, in its strange and gentle way, had other plans. Because on that bus sat a stranger who would change everything. It was a cold November morning in 1974, in a small Midwestern town that always smelled faintly of rain and diesel. The kind of town where the days were predictable, where every bus arrived 5 minutes late, and every neighbor waved even when they didn't know your name. 12-year-old Daniel Harris stood by the cracked sidewalk of Main Street, his backpack slung low and his breath forming soft white clouds in the air. He was small for his age, quiet, and usually lost in thought. While most boys his age raced bikes or traded baseball cards, Daniel spent his afternoons sketching things no one else noticed, like the way the sunlight hit the church steeple at 4 p.m., or how old Mr. Jenkins' dog always slept facing west. That morning, Daniel wasn't supposed to take the bus. His father usually dropped him off at school on his way to the factory. But today, there'd been shouting in the kitchen. Loud voices, then silence. His father had driven off early. His mother had said nothing, just handed him a few coins and whispered, "You'll have to take the bus today, sweetheart." So Daniel waited, alone. The bus finally groaned to a stop, old, dented, and painted a dull shade of green that had faded with years of service. The door squeaked open like it hadn't been oiled in a decade. The driver, a heavy-set man with a kind smile, nodded at him. "Hop on, kiddo. First ride?" Daniel nodded, clutching his coins. The bus was almost empty. Only 4 people sat scattered across the seats. A woman knitting near the window, a soldier in uniform staring out at nothing, an old man reading a worn newspaper. And at the very back, a stranger, tall, quiet, and dressed in a long brown coat that looked too big for him. Daniel hesitated. Something about the man's eyes caught his attention, gentle but heavy, like he was carrying a story too big to tell. He sat 2 seats ahead of the man, near the middle of the bus. The bus rumbled forward, the engine humming like an old lullaby. As the town passed by outside, Daniel stared out the window, trying not to think about his parents' argument. He wished, more than anything, that things could just go back to how they were before his father started coming home late. Before the shouting. Before his mother started crying when she thought he couldn't hear. And then, a voice broke the silence. "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" It was the man in the brown coat. Daniel turned, startled. The man smiled faintly. "Cold but beautiful," he added. Daniel nodded, unsure what to say. The man leaned forward slightly. "You look like someone who notices things," he said. "What do you mean? Most kids would be playing or sleeping. But you're watching." Daniel blushed a little. "I like seeing how things move. The wind. The trees. People." The man chuckled softly. "Ah, watcher of the world. That's a rare gift." He looked out the window for a moment, his expression thoughtful, as though the world outside was reminding him of something long gone. The bus made a few stops, picking up more passengers, a teacher with coffee, a young mother with her baby, and a couple arguing quietly. The sounds of life filled the air, but Daniel's attention kept drifting back to the man. There was something odd about him. He wasn't like other adults. His eyes didn't look at people, they looked into them. Finally, curiosity got the better of Daniel. "Are you going to work?" he asked. The man smiled faintly. "You could say that. I have somewhere important to be today." "Oh," Daniel replied. "Like a meeting?" The man chuckled. "More like a promise I made a long time ago." Daniel tilted his head. "What kind of promise?" The man didn't answer right away. He looked down at his hands, large, strong, but trembling slightly. Then he said softly, "The kind you keep even when it hurts." The bus rolled on, the scenery changing from small houses to open fields. Sunlight glinted off the frost-covered grass. After a few minutes, Daniel noticed something strange. The man wasn't holding a briefcase or luggage. Just an old, folded envelope that he kept turning over in his hands. "You're holding that really tight," Daniel said quietly. The man looked at the envelope, then at Daniel. "This?" he said, smiling gently. "This is the reason I'm on this bus." "What's in it?" Daniel asked. The man's eyes softened. "A letter. One I should have delivered 50 years ago." 50 years. Daniel's heart skipped. "You mean you've had it for 50 years?" The man nodded slowly. "Carried it with me through a war, through cities, through everything life threw my way." "Why didn't you deliver it before?" The man looked away, his gaze distant. "Because sometimes, saying sorry takes a lifetime." Daniel didn't fully understand, but something about the man's tone made his chest tighten. He thought about his father, the things unsaid at home, the silence that filled their house like a heavy fog. The man noticed Daniel's expression. "You look like you've got something heavy on your mind too." Daniel hesitated. "My parents, they fight a lot now. My dad used to tell jokes, you know? But lately he just doesn't talk much." The man nodded quietly. "Silence can be louder than shouting, can it?" Daniel looked up. "Yeah." The man sighed, turning the envelope in his hands again. "Sometimes," he said softly, "the words we don't say become the heaviest ones we carry." They rode in silence for a while, both lost in thought. The bus hit a bump, and the man steadied the envelope against his chest. Daniel noticed a faint name written on it in fading ink. "Eleanor. Is that who the letter's for?" he asked quietly. The man nodded. "Yes. Eleanor. She was someone I loved very much." Daniel blinked. "What happened to her?" The man smiled sadly. "She waited for me once. I was supposed to come back. But I didn't." "Why not?" "I thought I had time," the man whispered. "We always think we have time." Daniel didn't know what to say, so he just sat there, listening to the hum of the bus and the sound of lives moving forward outside. Suddenly, the bus screeched to a halt. Everyone lurched forward slightly. The driver cursed under his breath. "Sorry, folks. Some debris on the road." As people murmured and settled back, Daniel looked over. The envelope had fallen to the floor. He bent quickly to pick it up. But when he did, he noticed something odd. The letter wasn't just addressed to Eleanor. It was addressed to Eleanor Harris. His last name. He froze. The man looked down and saw the expression on Daniel's face. His eyes widened slightly, then softened, like a secret had just been silently discovered. Daniel's voice trembled. "That's my last name." The man took a deep breath. "I know." The air seemed to thicken. Daniel's mind spun. "Wait, what do you mean you know?" The man looked out the window for a long moment before answering. "I think we might be family, Daniel." "Family?" Daniel whispered. "But I don't have any." The man interrupted gently. "Not anymore, maybe. But once, a long time ago, I did." The bus was still moving, the rumble beneath their feet matching the beating of Daniel's heart. The man looked at him with misty eyes. "I knew your grandmother, Daniel. I knew her better than anyone." Daniel blinked. "You mean my grandma Eleanor?" The man nodded. "Yes. She was 17 when I last saw her. Beautiful, strong, stubborn as anything." He laughed softly, the sound carrying both warmth and sorrow. "She wanted to be an artist. I was a soldier then, just a boy in a uniform who promised her the world before he left." He looked down again, his voice trembling. "But I never came back. Not until now." Daniel swallowed hard. "What happened?" The man stared ahead, his gaze far away. "War happened. Fear happened. I got wounded, and by the time I returned she'd moved on. Married. Had children. Your father, I suppose?" Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying you're my great-grandfather?" The man smiled faintly. "Maybe not by blood, son. But by love, perhaps." Daniel didn't know what to say. The bus hummed, and the world outside seemed quieter now, like it, too, was listening. He looked at the letter again. The paper was yellowed, the edges torn. "What does it say?" he asked softly. The man exhaled slowly. It says all the things I never said when I had the chance. Apologies. Memories. Promises I broke. Why bring it now? Daniel asked. Because, the man said, I heard she passed away last year. And sometimes, even if the person's gone, the heart still needs to say goodbye. Daniel's eyes glistened. You're going to her grave? The man nodded. Yes. It's the least I can do. They sat quietly again. The bus ride stretched on, long, golden fields rolling by under a pale morning sun. After a while, the man said softly, Daniel, you remind me of her. Daniel looked up. My grandma? Yes. The way you watch the world. She used to say that noticing small things meant your heart was big enough to hold them. Daniel smiled faintly. My mom says I get that from her. The man nodded. Your mom, is she happy? Daniel hesitated. She used to be. The man's gaze softened. Tell her she's part of something bigger than she knows. Daniel frowned slightly. What do you mean? The man just smiled. You'll understand one day. As the bus turned onto an old road lined with bare trees, the man reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something, a small silver pocket watch. He handed it to Daniel. I want you to have this, he said. Daniel blinked. But why? It was hers once, he said softly. Your grandmother's. She gave it to me before I left for war. Said to keep it close so I'd always know someone was waiting for me. Daniel turned the watch over in his hands. It was scratched, worn, but beautiful, and on the back, engraved in tiny letters, were the words, Wait for me under the sycamore tree. Daniel looked up, his throat tight. What does it mean? The man smiled faintly. That's where we used to meet. By the old sycamore tree at the edge of town. The bus slowed as they entered the outskirts of an old cemetery. The driver called out, Next stop, Hillcrest. The man stood slowly, clutching the letter. This is my stop, he said. Daniel felt a strange ache in his chest. Wait, will I see you again? The man paused. Maybe. But remember this, sometimes we meet people not by accident, but because we're meant to carry something for them. He touched the pocket watch in Daniel's hand. That watch, it's a reminder to never wait too long to say what matters. Daniel nodded, eyes watering. Okay. The man smiled gently, stepped off the bus, and disappeared into the morning fog. The door closed. The bus rolled on. Daniel sat there, holding the watch tightly. He looked back. The seat where the man had sat was empty. But there, resting on the worn cushion, was the faded envelope. The letter. He grabbed it, calling out to the driver. Wait! He left his letter! The driver glanced in the mirror. Who left it, kid? The man in the brown coat. The driver frowned. What man? Daniel blinked. The one who just got off. The driver looked puzzled. Kid, nobody's gotten off this bus since we left town. Daniel's heart pounded. He looked out the window, but the road behind them was empty. No man. No footprints. Just mist. He looked back down at the envelope. The handwriting was faded but still clear. Inside, something faintly glowed, a hint of silver dust along the edges, like starlight caught in paper. Daniel swallowed hard. Slowly, he opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper. The handwriting was elegant, careful, and filled with emotion. He began to read. My dearest Eleanor. If this letter ever finds you, know that not a day passed without you in my thoughts. I promise you forever, but forever ran out of courage. I've carried this guilt across oceans, through fire and rain, through years I can't get back. I'm sorry. If love can live beyond time, then I hope this letter reaches your heart, wherever it may be. Wait for me under the sycamore tree. I'll be there when the wind stops. Henry. Daniel's hands trembled. His grandmother's name. The same tree she used to talk about when he was little. Tears welled in his eyes. Henry, he whispered. That was his name. He looked out the window again, half expecting to see the man. but there was only fog, fading into gold. That night, Daniel told his mother what had happened. At first, she thought he was imagining things. But when he showed her the pocket watch, she gasped. She held it like something sacred. "This was my mother's," she whispered. "I thought it was lost years ago." And on the back, she saw the words, "Wait for me under the sycamore tree." She sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. "Mom," Daniel said softly, "I think he found her." That night, the house was quiet. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, the pocket watch glinting under the faint yellow light. Outside, rain tapped softly against the window, a steady rhythm, like the heartbeat of time itself. His mother sat across from him, still holding the letter in her trembling hands. Her eyes were red, not from sadness alone, but from something deeper, the recognition of a memory she hadn't touched in years. "Mom," Daniel said softly, "who was Henry?" She didn't answer right away. She stared at the letter as if trying to pull a ghost out of it. Finally, she whispered, "Henry Caldwell. He was my mother's first love. Your grandmother used to talk about him sometimes, always with that faraway look. He said he went to war and never came back. She waited years, Daniel. Years." Daniel frowned. "Did she ever hear from him?" His mother shook her head slowly. "No. Not once. But every spring she'd go sit under that old sycamore tree at the edge of town. Said it made her feel close to him." Daniel's heart thumped. "Mom, I saw him." Her head lifted sharply. "What do you mean you saw him?" "On the bus. He talked to me. He said he was going to deliver that letter to her grave." His mother's eyes widened, color draining from her cheeks. "Daniel," she said quietly, "Henry Caldwell died in 1951. The silence hung heavy, as if the air itself was holding its breath. "That's not possible," she whispered. "You must have." But Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, Mom. He gave me this." He slid the pocket watch across the table. His mother touched it, and gasped again. The metal was warm. She looked up, her voice trembling. "It's ticking." Daniel blinked. "What?" "It stopped years ago," she said softly. "When Mom died, I found it in her box of keepsakes. It was still frozen at 3:17. I buried it with her." Daniel whispered. "Maybe he brought it back." She closed her eyes, tears welling again. "Oh, Mom, after all these years." The next morning, Daniel woke up early. He couldn't stop thinking about the bus ride, about Henry's gentle smile, the way his coat looked dusted with morning fog, the sound of his voice when he said, "Sometimes we meet people not by accident." The words echoed in his head. He got dressed quietly and slipped the pocket watch into his jacket. His mother was still asleep, but he left her a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to the old sycamore tree. I think I need to see it for myself." The town was still waking, shopkeepers raising shutters, milk bottles clinking, dogs barking at nothing in particular. He passed the bus stop, where he'd first met Henry. The same old green bus rolled by again, the driver nodding. Daniel waved faintly, but the driver didn't seem to recognize him. He kept pedaling until the houses thinned out, replaced by wide fields and the whispering sound of wind through grass. And then, he saw it. The sycamore tree. It stood tall and wide, its leaves turning amber in the autumn sun. The ground beneath it was littered with golden leaves, glowing like coins. Daniel leaned his bike against the fence and walked slowly toward it. He could almost feel something, a kind of stillness, like the world was pausing just to watch. He sat under the tree, running his fingers through the grass. The air smelled faintly of earth and rain. Somewhere far away, a train whistle cried. He took out the pocket watch and held it up to the sunlight. It ticked softly, the sound comforting and steady. Then he noticed something he hadn't before. On the inside of the lid, hidden behind a small latch, was a tiny piece of paper. He pried it open carefully. It was a photograph, old and faded. In it was a young woman with kind eyes and curly hair, standing beside a soldier in uniform. Behind them, a handwritten caption. "Under the sycamore tree, Spring, 1944. Daniel's breath caught. It was his grandmother. And Henry. Let that moment breathe, gentle strings in the background. He turned the photo over. On the back, in faint pencil, were 6 words. If she forgets, tell her I remember. Daniel's eyes welled up. He whispered. He still remembered. Then, from behind him, a soft voice said, She always knew. Daniel spun around, heart pounding. His mother stood there, holding the letter. She must have followed him. She looked around the clearing, eyes wide and glistening. It's exactly how she described it. She whispered. Every detail. Even the way the light hits the grass. Daniel held up the photo silently. She took it and gasped again. That's her, she said. That's my mother. Oh my God, look at her smile. Her voice broke. And him. I've only ever seen one picture of Henry. This isn't that one. This must have been taken just before he left. Soft piano returns, tender, nostalgic chords. Daniel hesitated. Mom, do you believe me now? That he was on the bus? She looked up slowly, tears streaming. I don't know what to believe, she whispered. But I know one thing. This wasn't just a coincidence. She walked closer to the tree and placed her hand on its bark. It was old, older than both of them. But something about it felt alive, humming softly beneath her palm. Then she frowned. Daniel, come look at this. At the base of the tree, half buried beneath leaves, was a small wooden box, weathered by years of rain. They dug it out together, their fingers cold and shaking. Inside was another envelope. The paper was yellowed and brittle. The name on it read, To my daughter, when the time is right. Daniel's mother gasped. This is my mother's handwriting. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single page, written in graceful cursive. My dearest Anna. If you ever find this, it means I've gone where Henry once went, into the quiet where time no longer matters. I kept waiting for him, but life had other plans. I married your father, had you, and never regretted a moment. But a piece of my heart stayed here, under this tree, waiting for a letter that never came. If that letter ever finds you or your children, tell Henry the First never stopped believing he would come back, in some way. And if he does, let him know that love never dies, it just learns to wait. Mom. Daniel hugged her, and she held him tightly. 2 generations wrapped in one unbroken moment of love, loss, and connection. Then Daniel noticed something else inside the box, a small brass key. Mom, he said quietly, what's this for? She turned it over in her hand. I don't know. But look, it's shaped like a heart. On the side, etched in faint letters, Main Street Post Office Box 23. Daniel's eyes widened. That's still there. His mother nodded slowly. Then maybe it's time we opened it. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The sky was clear, pale blue, and washed clean. Daniel and his mother rode the bus together, the same bus. The same driver greeted them. Mornin', folks, he said cheerfully. Haven't seen you two before. Daniel blinked. Wait, he whispered. You don't remember me? The driver chuckled. Should I? First ride, huh? Daniel looked at his mother, both realizing the same thing. Henry's bus might not have been just a bus. They rode in silence, hand in hand, all the way to the post office. The post office was old, with brass mail slots and wooden counters that smelled faintly of dust and time. The clerk was an elderly woman with bright eyes and white hair pinned neatly back. Morning, she said warmly. What can I do for you? Daniel's mother placed the key on the counter. We found this. It says box 23. The woman's smile faded slightly. Well, I'll be, she whispered. That box hasn't been opened in decades. She led them to the back, where rows of old mailboxes lined the wall. Box 23 was there, tarnished, dusty, but intact. The key fit perfectly. Inside was a small tin container wrapped in cloth. His mother unwrapped it gently, revealing a single envelope and a pressed sycamore leaf. The envelope was addressed to whoever still believes in love. She opened it carefully, hands trembling. If you've found this, then love has found you too. Maybe you're Eleanor's daughter or her grandchild. Maybe you're a stranger who just happened to care. Either way, thank you. I never made it back in time, but I've learned something in all these years. Love doesn't need time to exist. It just needs someone to remember. If you're reading this, promise me you'll tell someone today that you love them. Don't wait for another bus, another tomorrow, another war. Love now. Forgive now. Live now. Henry. Daniel wiped his eyes. His mother hugged him tightly. He found a way. She whispered. He finally found a way back to her. Later that evening, they returned to the sycamore tree. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the fields. His mother placed both letters, hers and Henry's, under the roots of the tree. Then she looked up at the sky and smiled through her tears. Mom, he came home. Daniel stood beside her, holding the pocket watch. At that moment, the ticking stopped. And for just one breathless second, the wind stilled. Daniel looked up, and thought he saw, for just a moment, two figures standing together in the golden light beneath the branches. A young woman and a man in uniform. Smiling. Years later, Daniel would tell this story to his own children. He would show them the pocket watch, the photo, and the letters, and he'd say, "Love has its own clock. It doesn't tick like ours. It waits until we're ready to listen." The driver turned back and said, "Last stop, everyone." Daniel blinked. He didn't even know where they were. The sky outside was golden, the kind of sunset that looked like someone had spilled honey over the horizon. The ocean shimmered far off in the distance. He looked around and realized almost everyone had gotten off. Only him, the driver, and the old man remained. The driver smiled. "Son, are you getting off?" Daniel hesitated. "I don't even know where this is." The driver chuckled softly. "Sometimes, where you end up is more important than where you plan to go." Mr. Howard stood up and tapped Daniel's shoulder gently. "Come. Let's take a walk." They stepped off the bus. The air smelled of salt and grass. Just down a small hill, there was a weathered wooden bench facing the ocean, the kind of bench that looked like it had listened to decades of human confessions. Mr. Howard sat down, his hands trembling slightly. Daniel joined him, still holding his backpack tight. "Do you ever wonder why life puts us on certain buses?" the old man asked, watching the horizon. Daniel shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe just coincidence." The old man smiled faintly. "That's what I thought too. For years. Until one ride changed everything." Daniel's eyes flickered up. "Your life changed on a bus too?" Mr. Howard nodded slowly, the corners of his eyes moistening. "Yes, son. The day my wife died. I was on a bus just like this one." The sound of the waves deepened the silence that followed. Daniel didn't know what to say, but something inside him told him to just listen. Mr. Howard's voice softened, trembling slightly as he spoke. "She was sick for months. Cancer, the doctors said. I was always busy working, driving buses across the state. I told myself I was doing it for her. That one more trip, one more paycheck would help." He swallowed hard. But the truth was, I was running away. I couldn't stand seeing her so weak, so fragile. So I kept driving. I told myself I'd be home early that night. He looked down at his hands. That was the night she passed. Daniel's throat tightened. "I got the call while I was behind the wheel," the old man continued. "A passenger handed me his phone and said, 'It's urgent. It's for you.'" He paused, taking a deep breath that shook his chest. Her last words, recorded by the nurse, were, "Tell Howard, he doesn't need to keep driving. I already had everything I needed." Tears gathered in the corners of Daniel's eyes before he could stop them. Mr. Howard gave a faint smile through his own tears. "That night I drove back, but the house felt empty. So I kept driving. Kept picking up strangers. Hoping maybe, one day, I'd find someone who needed to hear her lesson as much as I did. He turned to Daniel. And maybe tonight I just did. The ocean breeze picked up, carrying the faint sound of gulls. Daniel stared at the sea, 1,000 tiny ripples reflecting the fading sun. The bus finally stopped with a soft hiss, as if the engine itself had grown tired of carrying the weight of everyone's stories. He thought of his mother's worn hands, of how she'd hug him before every school day even when he pulled away. He thought of his father's silence, the tension that filled the house like invisible fog. And he thought about running, about how he was trying to escape, just like Mr. Howard once did. "Mr. Howard," he whispered, "do you think my mom knows I didn't mean it? That I didn't mean to hurt her?" The old man reached over and placed a shaky hand over Daniel's. "Son, love doesn't need explanations. It understands what words can't." Daniel nodded slowly, blinking hard. Mr. Howard reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old, faded photograph. It was of a young couple, smiling, eyes full of youth and hope. "She looks happy," Daniel said softly. "She was," Mr. Howard replied. "And so was I. But I spent so much of my life chasing what I thought mattered: money, status, and time. I didn't realize the greatest moments were the quiet ones. The ones that don't make noise." He handed the photo to Daniel. "Keep it," he said. "Maybe one day, when you have your own family, you'll remember what matters most." Daniel shook his head. "I can't take this." Mr. Howard smiled gently. "It's just paper, son. But the lesson it carries, that's yours now." Daniel hesitated, then took it carefully, as if holding something sacred. The sky turned purple, the horizon melting into soft shades of blue. The driver honked from the distance. "We're heading back, Mr. Howard." The old man stood up, brushing his coat. "Well, time to go." Daniel looked up quickly. "Wait, where are you going?" Mr. Howard chuckled. "Back where I belong. On the road. I still have a few rides left in me." Daniel stood too, feeling a strange ache in his chest. "Can I come with you?" The old man smiled warmly. "No, son. You've got your own road now. Go home. Fix what's broken. The hardest journeys are the ones that take you back." Daniel lowered his gaze, tears welling up again. "Thank you for everything." Mr. Howard placed his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Just promise me something." "What's that?" "When life feels heavy, don't run away. Sit down. Listen to it. It's trying to teach you something." The bus door closed with a familiar hiss. The lights flickered as it pulled away, rolling down the darkening road until only the glow of its taillights remained, 2 tiny stars in the distance. Daniel stood there for a long while, staring at the horizon. The wind tugged at his hair, and for the first time in days, he didn't feel lost. He took a deep breath, the kind that fills not just the lungs but the soul. Then he turned around, clutching the photograph tightly, and started walking home. It was late when Daniel reached his neighborhood. The streetlights cast long, sleepy shadows across the empty sidewalks. His house stood quietly at the end, the same house he had stormed out of that morning. He hesitated at the door, heart pounding. Through the window, he saw his mother sitting by the table, her head resting on her folded arms. There was a half-eaten dinner plate beside her, and the faint glow of the TV filled the room. Daniel slowly turned the doorknob. It creaked softly, and his mother stirred. When she looked up, her eyes widened, red from crying, tired from worry. "Daniel?" she whispered, her voice trembling. He nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks. "Mom, I'm sorry." She stood up, and before he could say another word, she pulled him into a trembling embrace. For a moment, the world outside disappeared. It was just the two of them, hearts reconnecting through the cracks of regret. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "I thought I lost myself," he murmured back. After dinner, Daniel went to his room and placed the photograph of Mr. Howard and his wife on his desk. He stared at it, thinking about the old man's words. He didn't know where Mr. Howard had gone, or if he'd ever see him again. But somehow, he felt like he was still out there, driving through quiet roads, sharing stories with strangers who needed to remember how to love, how to forgive, and how to live. Daniel whispered softly, "Thank you, Mr. Howard." And in that quiet moment, as the wind brushed against his window, he could almost hear a bus horn far off in the night, gentle, fading, like a farewell from an old friend. Here's a life lesson for you. Sometimes, the people who change our lives forever are the ones we meet for only a few hours. Every journey has a purpose, and sometimes, it's not about where the bus takes you, but what it teaches you along the way. 25 years had passed. The old neighborhood had changed. New houses, brighter streets, and younger faces. But one thing remained the same, the little bus stop at the edge of Maplewood Avenue. Now, a grown man stood there, dressed neatly in a navy blue jacket, his brown hair streaked faintly with gray. In his hand was a small coffee thermos. His name was still Daniel, but the world now called him Mr. Daniel Howard. He had become a bus driver. The same route. The same old road. The same gentle sunrise that used to greet him as a boy. As the morning mist danced along the street, Daniel watched the new passengers climb aboard. A mother and her sleepy daughter. An elderly woman with a small dog in her purse. A construction worker yawning into his palm. But then, near the end of the line, he saw him. A boy maybe 12, with a scowl on his face and a backpack hanging from one shoulder. He looked angry, hurt, and lost. The same way Daniel once had. "Hey," Daniel said gently as the boy climbed aboard. "You alright, champ?" The boy mumbled, "Just drive." Daniel smiled faintly. "That's what I do best." The bus hissed to life, and they pulled onto the road, the same stretch of highway where everything had once changed. The boy sat near the back, staring out the window. His reflection looked small against the passing fields. Daniel watched him through the mirror, seeing his younger self in every shrug, every sigh. At the next stop, Daniel parked the bus and stood up. "Mind if I sit with you a minute?" The boy shrugged again. "It's your bus." Daniel chuckled softly and took the seat across from him. "Rough day?" The boy nodded but didn't speak. His hands clenched around the straps of his backpack. Daniel leaned forward. "You know, I once took a bus when I was about your age. I thought I was running away from home. Turns out, I was just running towards something I didn't understand yet." The boy's eyes flicked toward him for the first time. "What do you mean?" Daniel smiled. "Sometimes life doesn't change in a big moment. It changes in small ones. Like a stranger sitting beside you and telling you something you didn't know you needed to hear." He reached into his wallet and pulled out an old, folded photograph, its edges yellowed and worn. The same photo Mr. Howard had given him all those years ago. Daniel handed it to the boy. The boy frowned. "Who are they?" Daniel looked out the window, smiling softly. "Two people who reminded me what love looks like." The boy studied the picture for a while, then handed it back. "So, what happened to them?" Daniel's eyes glistened in the sunlight. "They found peace. The kind that comes when you stop running." The bus rolled on. The morning turned golden. After a while, the boy spoke again. His voice was softer now. "My dad left last month. I don't know where he went. My mom's been crying every night. I just wanted to get away from it all." Daniel nodded slowly, understanding too well. Sometimes the world breaks people for a while. But love, real love, finds its way back. You just have to give it time. The boy stared at him, confused yet comforted. "Do you really believe that?" Daniel smiled. "I don't just believe it, son. I've lived it." They rode in silence for a few minutes, the kind of silence that heals more than it hurts. When they reached the last stop, the boy didn't get up. Daniel turned in his seat. "This is it, kid. Last stop." The boy hesitated. "Can I just stay a little longer?" Daniel grinned. "As long as you need." The boy looked out the window again, eyes softer now. Then he said quietly, "Thanks for not asking too many questions." Daniel chuckled. Sometimes, the heart answers better when it's quiet. The boy gave a small smile, the kind that hinted at healing, then finally stood up. Bye, mister. Daniel watched as the boy stepped off the bus, backpack bouncing on his shoulder. For a brief moment, the morning sun framed him perfectly, just like it had all those years ago when Daniel was the boy stepping off Mr. Howard's bus. It felt like time had folded in on itself, 2 moments connected by kindness. As the bus pulled away, Daniel looked into the rearview mirror one last time. The boy was standing there at the stop, watching the bus go, holding something small in his hand. Daniel smiled. He had slipped the photograph into the boy's pocket, just like Mr. Howard had done for him. That night, Daniel parked the bus at the depot and sat quietly for a while. He looked at the empty seats, rows of lives that had come and gone, stories whispered and forgotten. Then he looked up at the sky. It was dark, but peaceful. 1,000 stars blinked softly, like old souls watching over the roads below. He whispered, "I hope you're still out there, Mr. Howard. Still driving. Still changing lives." A soft breeze brushed through the open window, rustling the loose papers on the dashboard. It felt like an answer. Daniel closed his eyes, smiled, and whispered back, "Thank you." Life has a strange way of connecting souls. A lost boy. A grieving man. A bus that carried both. We never really know how deeply one small act of kindness can travel, how far it echoes, how many hearts it reaches long after we're gone. And maybe that's what makes life beautiful. It's not about grand gestures or perfect plans. It's about small moments, a shared seat, a quiet word, a single photograph, that remind us what it means to be human. Every bus ride, every conversation, and every fleeting encounter carries a lesson. Some people step into our lives for minutes, yet leave footprints that last forever. The road ahead is long, but sometimes, just sometimes, the best direction we can take is back home. The simplest acts of kindness can outlive a lifetime. Never underestimate how a single moment of compassion can rewrite someone's story, or even save it.